So you see that person that ghosted you last year or a couple years ago and you ain't heard shit from them since. Have you considered that person might actually be an undercover fed? Welcome to Introvert Soapbox, guys. I am your host G, and you are welcome to the space. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope the beginning of this year has brought nothing but greatness and happiness for you all. Today, I finished a 3-part series that I feel like I really need to get into with you lot. Follow me whilst we discuss the atrocities of the Met Police, organising branches funded by tax-paying money, yes, to deceive women, going as far as starting families with someone, all in the name of surveying activist groups. This isn't fiction or a hyperbolized conspiracy. This is an actual inquiry into the Met Police's undercover practices. And mainly, it confirms a lot of what I knew already. You really can't trust out here, okay? There is a whole world that we are unprivy to as normal citizens that is worse than anything you could ever imagine in your life, to be real. So let's get into the story. Today we are discussing the undercover police scandal.
Nino, Mayday, Mayday, Nino.
So essentially here, we have a group of women who were associated with anti-fascist groups around the 90s, early 2000s. There's the same love story, meet somebody, they end up like having so much similar interests, it's too good to be true when you meet them, everything goes well, the usual bullcrap. In this instance, it was also normal to them. One interested in the groups that they had joined. Maybe they'd meet them on the way to one of the groups meeting, they'd hear of them from a friend in those groups. These people always made sure that they were plotted in trusted circles. All of the women said the same thing in terms of the people that they fell in love with. One thing they had in common was they always had like a big car. It was always like a little minibus or something with enough seats. So obviously when they'd go to these meetings together, they'd always offer to drop people home. So they seemed very helpful, very friendly. They were stellar partners. No one really reported any abuse or any like tumultuous relationships. It was all going well. These women were none the wiser. They were very nice to their friends and family. They assimilated to their family very well. You meet parents, they met everybody. So it's not like anything was unusual until it would come to things about them. I'm trying to summarize what all the ladies had gone through, but in different experiences, some people said they did want kids, some people said they didn't. Some people went on to have those kids with these people, all whilst undercover, guys. The same themes with these men were a strange family. So every time you ask, oh, who's your family? Should we go see them? There's always a story of, oh, I don't really talk to them no more. I don't really have many around. It was always hard to reach their family and they would like kind of be dismissive of it. They always had a mysterious past that I got into trouble that I'm trying to like run away from, or I've had some issues that I don't want to go back to. Anything to be able to put a lid on investigating anything about them in the past. They always had a woe is me backstory. My dad died when I was young. That was a common thing that they said. Died in a like freak accident. Again, no close relatives, no one to call, no one to me personally. If I don't know no one around you, I can't trust that. Gave you enough to make you feel like it was truthful, but not the actual call. And these lot are police people, so they're able to lie their way out. Eventually, all these women experienced the same kind of thing in terms of through their relationship, it got to a point where the person was essentially showing signs of a mental breakdown, withdrawing, not saying much, whether it was after a conversation about children or whether it was after a birthday. It would come to a point where they would be withdrawing from the relationship and then completely disappear. The only trace of them would be a letter, a handwritten letter explaining how they've suffered through so much and how they're really trying to, get themselves together. They've had to run away to a whole nother country away from them, that they cannot be contacted or whatever. And boom, you're in a full committed relationship, probably walking towards marriage, and then you come home to a letter of them saying that they can't do it anymore. They continue in the letter to tell you how great you are and how great the relationship was and everything. It's just all them, they can't do it. It's very easy for everyone outside of the situation to say, yeah, no, I would have been able to notice something. Where do you then believe that someone's lying to me? In this, vulnerability was the key. Trust was the key. It's so sad having to hear these ladies account how great of partners these lot were to them, and then all of this not to be real. They're using a vulnerability and emotion to blind you so that you don't realize they're actually investigating your entire social circle. It can happen to anybody, bro. No one you meet you think is a fed. I mean, unless you're from the hood more time. Probably one person that you think is the feds, but it's not regular that you think that someone you're falling in love with is a police officer who's actually investigating the groups that you walk around, especially if you're not in nothing that's all that criminal. These are anti-fascist groups that were just against, like, it was around the time where there was a lot of racism and all this stuff. Like, in my personal opinion, is people stand up for the right things. Had we not had protesters and stuff, there wouldn't be a lot of laws changed. We should not muddy up the waters of democracy and allowing people to express themselves through protest and all of that. It's important. So when you guys do things like this to infiltrate these things, it ruins the whole point. Now you have a whole bunch of women who have been with these officers and most of their lives have been a lie, all in the name of what? Gathering evidence on anti-fascist groups. Not even like, we're not talking about a whole drug dealing ring, we're not talking about sex traffickers, we're not talking about people who actually do bad things. All the women kind of have the same accounts. They all got the same kind of letter. So when they all laid out the letters on the table, They were basically in the same font, as if ChatGPT wrote it. One of the victims made a comment and said, I'm pretty sure they had someone on job writing those letters. All of them got left after the letter. One of the women said it was like a bereavement without a body. I'm having to mourn this relationship, not even understanding that half of it wasn't even real. And there's no one to answer for it. What does one do with their mind? And you're gonna crave closure so bad. Despite how much you want to heal, you need some type of answers. It's really a sad thing to hear. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I felt really bad for them. But some things that happened in these relationships that made some people raise their eyebrows. One of the women, she found a bank card with his real name on it. And she asked about it, and obviously he lied his way out of it.
I bought it in a pub of someone.
One of the other ladies was on like a hiking trip with him. He's like, no,
I'm gonna go down the thing on my bike.
and she's like, I'm gonna drive, so I'll see you down there. She looks through the glove compartment. She finds his passport of his real identity. So imagine you're in the mountains with this person and you find out that you're in the mountains and you find out that this person that you're in the mountains with alone is not even the person that they said they were. Bro, the thing is mad. You can't lie your way out of that for me. He's had to be hiding because his best friend died in front of him, so he's had to like hide his identity and all of that. And look, on their departure, they made sure they weren't traceable. And this is not the days of all the screens and all that. This is the early 2000s, the 90s. They made a way that there was no possible means of contact. So this then set off investigation for the ladies. They had to figure out what was going on and what were they living for the past few years. These things weren't months. These things were years. What actually saved these women? Two things: nepotism and technology, okay? All the friends knew someone somewhere, thank God, to be able to get them information that they were looking for. One of the victims has a journalist friend, and one of these journalist friends actually met one of these feds undercover. It's documented, it's on video in the documentary. One of them had a civil servant friend. Funny enough, you lot chose the wrong victims. Well, I mean, this whole thing clearly wasn't thought through, but I don't believe that they ever thought the victims would have the power to actually find out what the you lot did to them. They did. They had the resources, they had the means, they had the will, despite having to actually mourn all of what they had gone through and actually make sense of their realities. They still pushed through, and it was hard for some of them. Some people didn't even want to uncover the trauma that they had just gone through. They had to stop it from happening to anybody else. So one lady had a little friend in the Home Office, did a search on the guy's name, and then came up saying his file was locked away. Usually you can find people's files, it would be open, but his was specifically locked in a place where it seemed like to the work it wasn't supposed to be found. He shut down the whole damn computer, but thank God these women were fearless. Thank God. It's different now because you can do CRBs, you can find out who you're dating way before. Now we have dating profiles, so you have to put out as much information as you can for people to even quit you. Back then it wasn't as easy, so these lot are having to go through physical libraries. Some people are having to fly to Dublin to be able to get real information. As they're investigating, they're finding out more, and they're finding out more. They went to go search for the dead dad and found out that the dad don't even exist. One of the victims had found out that the boyfriend's identity, do you know what the identity was? It was the identity of an 8-year-old dead kid. So this exacerbates everything, because now the men are using dead children's identities to be able to carry this out. Any means necessary. What is in these fascist groups that's so, like, what do you need to find out so bad that you need to go to these lengths that you're not going to for drug dealers and stuff? Do you get what I'm saying? It's different points and different breaks, and it's not all chronological. If I feel like I'm jumping between, go and get the details from the documentary. I'm just giving a quick summary. And what was the icing on the cake? And one of the other victims, he told her that he was in an old marriage. She went to go and investigate marriage certificate and found, well, one, his name was wrong instantly. Two, she found his occupation on that was a federal officer. A special demonstration squad was started in 1968 by the Met Police around the rapid rise of the protests against the Vietnam War in central London. This squad was created to infiltrate protest movements, all in the guise of like collecting information, assimilate, get right in there, figure out how they think and move and plan. All the information was supposed to be to assist them in managing protests when they do hit the streets. Bag of bullshit. The one thing I've always hated about the Met Police is the way they explain things away. And I learned it from history. A name came up, Conrad Dixon, who was somehow associated with the squad, and he was given, I guess, the task to form this squad. He said, give me 10 men, 10 million pounds, and I'll get it sorted for you. And that's what they did. He wanted to come up with this whole new approach of like long-term surveillance that would be much more beneficiary because it would have a lot more to it. The motto was by any means necessary. So let's talk about the Ratcliffe protests. This was essentially organized by a group who were looking to shut down a power plant for a week in protest. During one of the meetings in a school in Devonshire or somewhere like that, planning got raided. How would anybody know you're planning in a primary school unless someone told them? Mark Kennedy was amongst them, secretly recording and feeding back all the information to the Fed. He ended up becoming a scapegoat for the Met, actually. They would make themselves seem like they're really important people in these places, and that's now made me look at things like BLM and all these activist movements now. History repeats itself. That's one thing I've learned. Please don't think they've dropped this tactic. You lot are having sex with these women and having children with these women were like all under false pretenses, because if they knew you were a Fed, well, one, they didn't even know who you were, and they funded it, they let it happen, they knew it was going on, and they pushed for it. They didn't shut it down, they didn't say that it was useless, they didn't say that it was too much. It's just not a good look. So we all know that the Met Police is a boys' club. They look out for each other and each other only. If you don't look out for them as they look out for each other, they will throw you to the wayside. It's the same with any police force. It's the same with any government body. You're useful until you're not. So you better make sure you show yourself useful, even if you get yourself in trouble. They will back you if you back them. But if you don't back them, nah. Mark Kennedy is becoming one of the biggest scapegoats, and he's coming to the media. He's trying to apologize for this stuff, but he's essentially saying, yeah, it is happening, whilst the Met is holding a no confirm nor deny stance. This is what they felt could blanket them for so long. But Mark Kennedy was basically saying, yeah, I was supported by the Met. This was all coming from higher ups. I wouldn't have done all of this without order. Funny enough to hear that he was actually paid a 5-figure sum for one of the interviews that he did to the national TV, and probably more. Sitting there trying to half give accountability and half be sad, but in the end of the day, you're getting paid for all this and you've still gotten away with it. Like, it's just mad. Oh, by the way, in their real lives, they were already married and had kids. So obviously, when some of these things came out, some of these people's children weren't chatting to them and all of that. The name Bob Lambert came out. He's the one that got stuck on the most, because he publicly got exposed for starting a family in this undercover thing. So then we have to pose the question to the Met, why do you have to go and do all of that if you're just getting evidence and information? You guys are supporting this, you lot are pushing this, you're destroying people's lives in what, all in the name of surveillance. How can you allow this? Even though he says, oh, I didn't really want the child was there, it happened. You had the audacity to say that you was financially supporting the child for early years of its life. That child grew up without you around. Imagine what that child was thinking. Oh, you know what, yeah, I swear, I can't even, it actually pisses me off. He ended up becoming one of the faces of the inquiry that we're going to get into right now. As soon as the group and the journalists could confirm that these people were lying about their identities, they published it. As a journalist, you have to give the other party some time to respond. But if you took too long, they were posting, bro. What do you mean? They were flooding out pieces of information. These are obviously being picked up as headlines. They're becoming like big breaking news. Well, as these things are getting more popular, they're coming across women who have these same accounts. How is any of this necessary police work? Every clear and coherent lead that had evidence backs behind it, the Guardian was publishing it. And that's why I love the Guardian. The victims then decided to band together for a group lawsuit. From the lawyers, they decided that it was best to file a civil case instead of a criminal. All the documents have to be published. All the discovery has to be out. So they filed this civil court case. The Met Police have been doing since all of this is broken. Any statement they're giving, we can't confirm nor deny, otherwise that would compromise the undercover police unit that we have and blah 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 blah. Yeah, bullshit. They kept using it. They kept using it to get out of trouble. In this civil case, they had to bring out the stuff, and the judge ruled that they had to publish everything. You're not going to run that on us this time. And in this time, we had a whistleblower called Peter Francis, who he was corroborating all of that. What had then pushed was the mention of Stephen Lawrence, where he had explained that another way they went too far was he himself had heard or been tasked to get more information on Stephen Lawrence's family to discredit them. The Met Police ordered someone in that undercover realm, let's call it, to go and get dirt on Stephen Lawrence's family so that they would look better. This is what we're talking about. Like, there's no morals whatsoever. So yeah, Peter Francis was letting the whole thing. But with that, then came the push for the inquiry, where Theresa May on the 17th of July 2015 began public inquiry into the Met Police's undercover practices. And I'm really glad that the victims were able to get this. Everything had to come to light. Everyone had to speak. Everyone had to get all the information out so that we know what is going on. You lot are trying to ruin people's lives after you lot didn't investigate their murders properly. Like, are you lot insane? And then you lot are doing things like this, starting families willy-nilly. Like, one of the Guardian researchers actually came across a file that was kind of locked, and he requested for that. This thing was the Tradecraft Manual. Actually, once this was found by the Guardian, they basically described it as the handbook of rules and regulations, steps, do's and don'ts, what to basically look out for when doing this specific police work. The finding of this book was a complete contradiction of what they said, because the Met Police were constantly saying, we don't support starting families or starting long relationships for this. If you listen to what's said in that book, they refer to these people as what? The weary. They were oh god. The weary could do this, the weary could really care for you, so try and do this and that. Like, it's horrible. Guys, go watch this thing, because it's actually mad. You lot said that this is what's required to be able to do the work. So they got the Met in a bind. Inquiries happening. The lawyer's objective was to prove that this was highly systemic. Everyone's trying to say and make it seem like these are rogue officers that just went on and did their own things. No, this was demands and commands from higher ups, all the way up to the cabinet. One of the newspapers published that Tony Blair was getting reports of this exact operation directly to him. There's no way people didn't know. Question is, why were you lot letting it happen? Demolishing all the scapegoating and bullshit. The people were not for it. So the Met had to do something. They came together and they tried to settle. When you go against a big company and they tell you to settle, they're basically telling you, take this money or we will drown you in legal fees and you won't win shit. let's just let this go away. To me, a settlement is an admission of guilt or whatever. Like, so thankful for this group of women that they're so strong that they said, all right, we're going to take the settlement on our term. You're going to give a public apology and you're going to take accountability, because we can take this money, but it's not going to heal anything. Well, the constable, I don't know which one, but someone from the Met Police gave them a public apology and expressed and explained regret. This money won't settle the things in their heart. Money won't settle the paranoia when they meet a new person, but maybe your accountability might do something, expose you and stop you from doing it again. Some of the people were speaking in the inquiry to try and make sure that they were still protecting the Met, but also absolving themselves. They share secrets, they keep it in, they do what they do, and they move on.
It says wrap it up. Wrap that shit up, B.
Amongst many other things usually, but it's just another highlight on how untrustworthy our Met Police are sometimes. And I see that they're making efforts these days because it's been continuous back-to-back things of this stuff, of this nature in the last decade. We can't trust that you lot still aren't running these things. We can't trust that you lot aren't using this information to continue doing things in the future. And it also highlighted how much happens behind the scenes with our money. Taxpayer money, where does it go to? My biggest thing now is that we have things happening across the world that are causing protests, like even down to the Palestine protest. You will never convince me that there's not people in there that were doing the same thing. Anytime you go to any of these protests, any movement that you're standing for, you have to look around and really consider that it could be the person that's at the front that has the mic, that's actually screaming and banding for everybody to get together. That is the actual Fed. I remember around the George Floyd protests, even in any protest, I've always heard this thing of start peacefully, and then anarchists will come out of nowhere and start riling it up, and then you'll hear people who started at the protest saying, no, we were fine before these people then turned up and started doing it. It happened a lot in America, and we share secrets between America and the UK. So how do we know that these practices aren't being used there too? I don't believe that they've dropped this practice, and I don't think that they will ever prove to you that they have. They're 90 times ahead of us in everything, in technology, in surveillance, in strategies and all of that. Wake up, guys. I'm sorry, I'm saying wake up because I had to wake up when I was watching it. So mad. The person that you can lay next to could really be investigating something around you. So stay aware, guys. Sorry, I watched this thing and it was just so mad. I just had to come and speak about it. I'm sorry if anyone's lived with someone and realized that they're deceitful. That is crazy, and I'm so sorry that you've had to experience though. That's a whole nother topic on my stance on the police. I don't hate them. I don't like the way they treat my people, so that's why I'm not the biggest fan of them. That's for another video. What do you guys think? I hope you guys go watch the documentary. Just be wary, just be safe, and just be careful. If you did like the video, please give it a like, subscribe to the space, or subscribe to the Substack. Subscribe to this channel. Vlogs will be here anyway, so it's either you subscribe to this one or subscribe to the Substack, but you'll get the content either way. Comment what you thought. Ever been in a situation nearly close, remotely close to it? I want to know your lot's thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.